going to make it just like the quiz that we did today. We're going to ask you the same 4 questions. Isn't it nice to know the questions beforehand? Or does it not have time? Okay. Hurry up. Okay, so the 4 questions are going to be A, what hypothesis test should they use? B, what is null alternative hypothesis? C is going to be what equation do you pick? And given a p-value equal to, here I'm going to give you a crazy one. How about 3.56 e minus 12. What do you do? Give myself a little bit more room here. Okay. So what if you got a crazy question like that? All right. Market research company has been asked to find the preference between 2 brands of power tools. The data from the last survey indicated the Hefty Tools products were preferred by 64% of the market, whereas Skillcraft were preferred by 36% of the market. The previous survey was 4 years ago. They only surveyed men in the 25 to 54 age range. They wanted to do a new survey, but this time we'll poll both men and women in that range. But respondents must identify as hand tool users. The pertinent question in the survey asks which tool manufacturers' hand tools do you prefer, Hefty or Skillcraft? Which hypothesis test should they use? This is a good one.
Is that a goodness of fit?
Okay, so let's lobby for our positions. You're saying goodness of fit. Why?
Because you have percentages for a previous test.
You got percentages from a previous test. Okay, anybody have any other ideas? You'll go with that? Okay. Chi-squared what?
Chi-squared test for independence.
Chi-squared stands for independence. What are you saying? Somebody must be independent of something?
Yeah.
Well, actually, that's the next question. Never mind. Just tell me why you picked that test.
Because you have 2 things between men and women, and they're testing their preference or something.
So you're testing the men versus the women?
Yeah. 2 different
Okay.
and their preference. Yeah.
What'd you say?
Testing Hefty tools and Skillcraft, not vendors.
You're testing Hefty versus Skillcraft, not numbers? Is that what you said?
Well, she said it was men versus women, but
Yes, I said men versus women. And
It's men versus men and
Yeah,
women.
to see
if they have
if their preference
over
between
two.
Hefty or Skillcraft is independent of their gender.
So you're saying you're testing the choice is independent of gender, okay?
Yes.
Any other options?
Chi-squared test for independence, essentially.
So we've got goodness of fit, we got independence, both chi-squares. Nobody else?
Are we just trying to see if it's different, like once we start having men and women, like if it changes from just men's preference? So it's like, instead of comparing men versus women, you're comparing men versus women.
Okay,
men and women.
so assuming that's true, what would you pick?
Or they're just saying.
As far as the
Yeah.
test,
Mhm.
wouldn't it be like D if there's a difference?
There's a difference?
Uh,
So you're saying it's a
equals
T,
zero or
Yeah.
D.
two means independent, is that what you're saying? Or dependent?
I feel pretty good.
I don't know that it'd be means though, because we've got proportions,
Would it be,
right?
if we were going with that, would it be a dependent one because it's before and after?
Well, it's categorical.
Okay, we got a lot of things floating around here.
You should
It's so
throw it out
vague.
there.
Okay, so actually, maybe we better back up a second before we answer that question. So he said it was categorical. Who agrees? Is it who says it's categorical?
Yeah.
Are you raising your hand? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Who says it's quantitative? A lot of you didn't raise your hands. All those of you who didn't raise your hands, you got it wrong. Yes, so it is categorical, so that's going to rule out our dependent means, okay? Right off the bat. So this is categorical. And we know it's categorical because it's a survey and we got percentages, right? Okay, you prefer hefty or, now the question is, so it could be a proportion test or it could be an independence test, right? Okay, so how do you decide? Because nobody said anything about proportions. Is it a proportion test?
It says it's preferred by 36% of the market, isn't that proportion?
No, so is it a proportion or is it independence? Is the proportion who prefer independent? Oh, could really mess it up, right?
Is the goodness fit because of the percentage?
That's a good question. Okay, so what are our, so we'll see. It sounds like we got 4 options here, right? Don't we have 4 options? Let's make sure I've got all the options before we start voting. We got chi-square, independent. We got chi-square, goodness of fit. We got a proportion, 1 proportion and a 2 proportion. Those are both Z's, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So who says it's a chi-square independence test? 1, 2. It's not very many. Who says it's a goodness of fit test? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Who says it's a 1 proportion Z? Nobody? Who says it's a 2 proportion Z? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so it looks like it's between those 2. This one's a tough one because, let me look at this again. Okay? 64% and 36%, what did those add up to? Add up to 100%. So really, you could interpret one as P and one as Q, right?
Yeah.
Okay?
Yes.
So if you wanted to say P was hefty and Q was skillcraft, you could do that, right? So is that really a 2 proportion test? Not really. So nobody got the right answer then, dang it.
No. What? Are you serious? This is a joke, right?
Okay?
I can't even math.
Hate it when that happens. Okay, so let's say we define it, you could define it as either hefty or skillcraft. If I said that hefty was 64% or 0.64, okay, it's going to be a 1 proportion Z.
Why have the men and
So
women
then-
there
The
just to
fact that
confuse us?
they're testing out men and women really has no.
Yeah, significance.
Okay, so that's a good, so basically, so here's the deal. We did this survey 4 years ago. We're going to assume that 4 years ago survey is the correct answer. It was 64%. Okay? So you're going to treat this, even though it's a survey, you're going to treat that as a population.
Even though they say specifically that.
Even though they say specifically as a survey. Now it's a different survey in the fact that it was men only, and now we're doing men and women. So they are independent populations, right? You had men only versus men and women. Those are 2 completely different populations. Okay, so you're comparing this versus the population of men versus the new survey, which is the men and the women. Okay, so you're calling that, essentially we're going to stop it against that standard. We're going to see if the proportion of hefty customers has changed. Okay?
So when you're doing your no-winner hypothesis, could you do it with the 0.36 and
could do it with the 0.36, and that would be perfectly acceptable.
And you do that just because they added two. The two. So if
Um,
they had another category in there that was wrong.
If they added another category in there, what would it be in that case?
What does that mean?
It would have to be the chi-square independence in that case,
If they added
because it's not a true binomial.
Another
But the way that it's written is the binomial, you only get two choices. Okay? Now, we're saying, I don't care, it's not an option. You gotta pick. Okay? So yeah, that was a good tricky one. Okay, so now that we know it's a 1 proportion z test, proper equation. Oh, actually, so let's back up. What's the known the alternative hypothesis?
P equals 0.64. P equals 0.64.
P equals 0.64 versus,
P does not equal 0.64.
yeah, we don't know if it's gone up or down, right? It does not equal 0.64. Okay? What equation do you pick?
One of these.
It's gonna be a z equation then. Z equals
Yeah, and
p hat minus p divided by square root of pq over n. And so given that you have a p-value of 3.56 e minus 12, what does that mean? That messes me up. Is that a legit number?
Yeah,
Yeah, it's just when they
zero,
move.
zero,
What is,
zero,
it's
zero,
0.1, 2,
zero.
3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9,
So,
10, 11, 12. Okay?
Definitely reject.
What word may you be tempted to use when it's that small?
Accept.
You could use the A word on that one, right? Okay, could accept it. Okay, so now, given that p-value, what's your conclusion?
Reject.
Okay, so you can reject that, but I don't want that in my conclusion, right?
Yeah.
We reject the null, which means what?
the proportion's different.
The proportion of hefty preferences is different. I can't, now, normally I would say it's gone up, it's gone down, I don't have enough information to answer that. All we know at this point is it's different.
Okay, so that means it just changed between the two surveys.
And it could be because we added women to the poll. Maybe women have a different opinion than the men. Which is gonna make you say, was this really a good idea? Okay?
Is there a possibility that you could put more answers under these? Because none of us would.
Well, how am I gonna do my quiz and my
It'll
test if I
help
give you all my
a
answers?
lot. It will help. We'll be able to study for them.
Because I feel like I'm going to
Rule-
but.
Okay, so just so you know, the one that I was gonna do, that I'm probably, where was it? There was one that I started doing in the other class, and then I was like, that's a really good question. Oh, it was C5.
Okay.
Check out that one. That's a really good confusing one too. Okay?
And how am I supposed to figure it out?
I have a quick question for this test that's today. For the three scenarios that we have at the end, is it gonna include like chapters 9 or like 10 and 11 as well?
Yes.
Or is this gonna be what we have?
No, it could be chapters, yeah. Any hypothesis test is fair game on scenarios.
Can I check my answer for C5 with you?
Okay.
How did your other tests go?
Well, actually, but I feel